There is a lot of lost Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network animation, most of which has rarely been seen, and some of which might never be seen again. However, this idea of lost content is not only limited to the popular mainline TV shows that most people probably watched. Children's animation is just as likely to become lost media as anything else, and can also be equally as mysterious. This is exactly the case for Nick Jr.'s The Backyardigans, a CGI animated show about 5 animal friends who use their imagination to go on vast adventures. The show became a huge success that ran for 4 seasons from 2004 to 2011, and spawned many releases of toys, DVDs, CDs, and even a live stage production. But before The Backyardigans became the phenomenon that it did, its original vision was an entirely different show, and it's for that reason why the desire to find it has been had. Years before the 2004 premiere of The Backyardigans, in 1998 at the Nickelodeon Studios in Florida, a live-action pilot titled Me and My Friends was filmed as a series pitch to Nickelodeon. This is the earliest incarnation of The Backyardigans, and we can visibly see it's an entirely different show than we know today, with actors in full-body costumes and walking around a hand-built set. Here, we can clearly see the 4 main characters of the final show, Uniqua, Tasha, Pablo, and Tyrone, all of which had a lead role in this pilot. Some of them look quite different from their final counterparts, but this could just account for the differences in costumes versus CGI. There is a 5th character in the Backyardigans crew, Austin, who does not appear in any of the visuals we have for this pilot. It's actually speculated that he doesn't appear in the pilot at all. He also doesn't appear on any early concept art, which would imply he was a late addition to the final version of the show. Aside from the 4 pictured characters, there were also a trio of meerkats that appeared in Me and My Friends, based on this picture of 3 puppeteers. While we don't know their role in the pilot, there's a possibility that it could have been a large one, since the meerkats have never reappeared in the series again. As for Me and My Friends, there's not much information available, as only a handful of images and that one short video clip is all that's ever surfaced from this pilot. The video clip is from a compilation commemorating Nickelodeon Studios' 10th anniversary, and the pictures are from Yvette Helen Studios, the company that helped in creation of the costumes for the characters. Currently, Rick Lyon, who has stated he puppeteered one of the meerkats, has been contacted in regards to the pilot, where he claims he doesn't have it and never saw it. Additionally, adding the pilot was done very quickly, and he doesn't remember much about it, other than enjoying his work on it. Now, this is a pretty important piece of information, because instead of simply moving on to the next puppeteer or costume designer, we can assume that no one who helped on the items and props for the pilot has a copy. The reason for this actually makes sense. Just because someone has a connection to a project doesn't mean they got a copy of it, especially considering they were hired for only making the props. Their accolade comes in the form of a credit on their resume, and those few pictures showing the end result. So while that omits the costume designers and whatnot, I did try to find some of the actual production crew, mostly just the series creator herself, Janice Burgess. Unfortunately, that ended really quick, and I couldn't find anyone else who was available to contact that may have had a hand in the creation of the Me and My Friends pilot. In fact, as much as I hate to admit it, this almost sounds like a losing battle in regards to finding it, never mind getting it released. Janice Burgess would technically be the easiest and most likely person to have a copy, but even if she was able to be contacted, there's a really high chance Nickelodeon and Viacom would have an issue with it being released, as they're really protective of their properties. And while The Backyardigans hasn't really been used recently, releasing content involving it is something they just generally have an issue with. On the flip side, Janice might not even have it, since creators do not always have a copy of all their work. So really the only place that is almost guaranteed to have it is Nickelodeon themselves, and contacting a whole company asking them to release a super obscure pilot involving a very popular franchise is not going to yield success. There is a rumor that questions whether or not Nickelodeon even still has it, since remember it was originally rejected. However, the positive side in all of this is that yes, there's a very high chance it's in their archives. Considering Nickelodeon maintained the rights to the show and revamped it only a few years later, it doesn't make sense to assume they got rid of it. And actually, that could also be another reason why it was never passed out to the costume crew of Yvette Helen Studios. Maybe it legally couldn't have been. Essentially though, the last documented time this pilot was absolutely known to exist was 17 years ago, and generally speaking anything could have happened to it between then and now, but I'd like to think that it's still intact and can be released in some form someday, even if that release isn't official. It's also interesting to think about what the Backyardigans would have been like had it remained live action and maintained its original name. But we might never even know what the pilot is like, because until it gets found, it'll definitely remain a mystery.